This episode,
more from Gerry Anderson aficionado Robert J Sawyer.
The Randomiser takes us back to the very first episode of which series?
and a rare find in the Gerry Anderson news
That is all coming up in Pod 84.
of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Here we are again.
Here we are
Now,
again.
Jamie, what was that? That is all coming up in Pod 84.
I'm just saying, honestly,
Yeah, I
all the
like
stuff
it.
we've just said is actually coming.
It actually is. This
Yeah.
is the Gerry Anderson podcast. I am Richard James, and you are?
Jamie Anderson.
Very good. Now, we're here for the next, well, it's generally about an hour and a half, isn't it?
Somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Full of Gerry Anderson goodness. All the usual gubbins, and I haven't said that for a while, and that's why I'm saying it now. We've got Chris
Good word.
Dale's amazing randomizer coming up a little later on. We've got some news from the Gerry Anderson universe. We've got facts. And we've also got part 2 of Jamie's fantastic interview with Robert J Sawyer, science fiction author, no less, of huge repute and many an award.
Yes, of some note.
Exactly.
And yeah, very nice guy, very knowledgeable, and as you may have heard last week, full of cool theories about the world of Gerry Anderson. And
Yeah.
there's loads more of those to come. We do a lot more of the Supermarionation era. Keeps flicking back to Fireball XL5, you know, but we do cover
Right.
Stingray and Thunderbirds and Scarlet and a touch of Joe 90, I think.
Just a touch, but that's probably more than enough, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
Now, actually, I've got some Joe 90 news for you a little later on, Jamie, so remind me, because I think you'll be very interested in that.
I'm not sure
yeah.
I will
I
remind
think
you, but
will.
okay.
Yeah, so here we are. Yes, Pod 84, which means, of course, the century is just around the corner, really, isn't it?
Oh, I see. Us 100. Yes, I thought you meant, you know,
Well, yeah.
the year 2100.
Well,
but
no, bit of a while to go before we get there, Jamie. But Pod
Yes.
100 is just 16 pods away.
crazy.
What are we going to do?
Well, we're planning possibly a crossover celebration podcast event, aren't we, with the Benji and Nick show?
Yes.
Potentially with a visit to somewhere special, a Gerry Anderson location.
Yes.
But there's a bit of planning to do and only 16 weeks to do it.
Yeah, all right.
And that may sound easy, but with our hectic schedules, Richard, and crazy lives that
I
we
know.
both live.
Yeah, bonkers,
I don't
isn't
know
it?
we'll find the time. Yes, won't be long. So there we go. Now, if you have any questions or things you'd like to share with us, do email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. And also, you might want to join our Facebook group, the
Oh, yeah.
official Gerry Anderson Podcast Listeners Facebook group.
Hang on.
At Facebook.
Is there an unofficial one as well, then, that I don't know about?
I don't
We're
know.
not part of.
We're not invited if there is one.
No.
But the official one is at facebook.com/groups/podsterons. And I was just having a chat with the team here, and we thought we might do some more Podsteron merch
Oh, yeah.
for our lovely listeners.
Great.
And I'm thinking phone cases, actually.
Are you now?
Yeah, because a lot of people will listen to
Yeah.
us on their phones. So kind of, you know, making the phone more Gerry Anderson podcast centric might be quite cool.
That's great. Yeah.
So, yes, watch this space, but if you've got any podcast-specific merch ideas, then do email us or reach us on Twitter. And how do they do that, Richard James?
Yeah, it's quite easy, Jamie Anderson. You just hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast and we'll see your tweets. Or you can tag him, I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James, to make doubly sure that we'll see them too. And we try our best to respond whenever we see them. We will be having some tweets a little later on, also some posts from the aforementioned Facebook group, and of course some emails from you as well. So stay tuned.
There is so much stuff.
Yeah.
We can't dilly-dally any longer.
No, should we just not do Fab Facts and go straight into the... what?
Richard, I think what we need to do is just get on with it.
Okay.
So here it is, this week's Fab Facts.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Fab Facts.
Fab
Accompanied by your favourite music and favourite Fab Facts bemoaner, Richard
What?
James.
I'm not a bimona.
You are a little bit.
I just, no, I do enjoy them.
And we've had some really good ones in recent weeks,
some
haven't we?
really interesting ones, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, can't be many by now, but you never know.
No, you don't.
Fab Facts. We've got loads of sources of Fab Facts. I pick one of the books, one of the Fab Fact tomes.
Oh.
I flick through it, and at a relatively random point, Richard James will shout Fab, at which point I will stop flicking, open it on the page which I've stopped flicking at, and hopefully find you on there a Fab Fact.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you sounded... It's way more complicated than it needed to be, but yes, go on.
We just find something interesting in the book to say and say
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
But it doesn't sound as cool that way. So
No, fine.
here is the book, Richard.
Oh, yes.
Are you ready with your Fab?
Born ready.
Then here we go. Flickety flick flick flick.
Fab!
Almost left it too late there.
Oh, I know.
Ah, right.
Okay.
Well, we're sort of spanning the 70s and the 80s with this one.
Oh, I like it.
Who doesn't like that?
Yeah.
So if I said Terrorhawks
Yeah.
and Space 1999 in the same sentence,
Right.
I mean, obviously you'd go, well, Gerry Anderson, but you
Yes.
wouldn't think they had that much else in common, would you, really?
Windsor Davis play a starring role in Space 1999 that I don't know about?
I don't believe so.
No.
I think there was a little bit of shared crew between the
Yeah.
two. Tiny bit, but not too much. But no, here is your interesting Fab Fact that connects the worlds of Space 1999 and Terrorhawks.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, fine. Let's see. One of the 4 models of the moon that was built for Space 1999 was a barrel-shaped section of the lunar horizon, which had a motor inside to rotate it, yeah? So it would either suggest the rotation of the moon or the approach or departure of a spacecraft.
Like it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Quite ingenious. Another
Yeah.
one of those lovely things that the effects teams came up with. I guess Brian Johnson is the man behind that, but it fits in with all the kind of rolling roads and the
That's right.
rolling horizons and all that sort of stuff they used to
Clever.
have. So the Space 1999 stuff, the effects was done at Bray, just down the way from you, Richard.
Indeed, yeah.
But that model was left at Bray when the series closed down.
What?
Yeah, I know. Crazy, isn't it? So other effects teams borrowed it because it was there and it was pretty cool.
Yes,
so
of course.
it turned up in occasional other productions, including things like Blake 7.
Oh,
I
really?
believe there was an episode called Cygnus Alpha. I'm not familiar with that one. But
Cygnus Alpha, yes.
yeah, it was in there. So that's the Space 1999 moon. But however, when production began on Terrorhawks in 83, that model was still there.
At Bray.
Yeah, and still in
Okay,
working condition.
Yeah.
So, well, I mean, the budget was low.
Yeah.
There's a working lunar surface there already, so it was reused. So quite often throughout Terrorhawks, wherever there's a lunar or Martian surface rolling, that is the same model that was used throughout Space 1999.
Oh, now that is amazing, actually. That's quite sweet. I like that.
Bit of recycling, and that is the thing that connects the two, which I think is pretty cool.
Very good.
And it's really nice that kind of techniques that Derek Medding started and Brian Johnson continued and expanded upon.
Yeah.
And Steve Begg was learning from and then using on Terrorhawks, and also complemented by a model that was actually straight from Space 1999.
Lovely. Reminds me of those lovely tinfoil moonscapes I used to make with, egg boxes and pizza cartons and things when I was a kid. I was obsessed with that lunar landscape, and it was partly because of shows like Space 1999.
Yeah. There's something very cool about it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, very nice. Oh, well, Jamie, you'll be pleased to hear I am suitably impressed with this week's Fab Fact.
Brilliant. We need to give you a little bell or something that you can hit to denote your happiness. But also, you can look out in other bits and pieces. I think there's a ship from an aircraft from Joe 90, possibly, that was used in City of Death.
Okay.
I believe.
Really?
Yeah, Doctor Who is
City of
there.
Death.
Yeah. So there's quite a few examples of Anderson stuff being reused in different shows, but nice to have it within the Anderson universe. Anyway,
Yes, that is good.
I think that's quite enough of that. We've had our Fab Fact. Richard approves. So that is the end of this week's Moon Fact.
There we are. That's great. Now,
Great.
that's really interesting, Jamie, because that ties in with an email that flooded in to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
One email that
Just the
literally
one.
flooded
Now,
in.
We have had others, but I'm saying it ties in with this one. This is from James, who says, "Hello, podcast presenters." So I guess that'll be you and me. I've got a quick question, says James, that popped into my head whilst I was listening to Pod 83 today. The Fab Fact reminded me of a bit of trivia Chris Dale revealed in the Investigator's Primer. Now, the primers, of course, are these little 5-10 minute YouTube presentations from Chris, which details and comments upon all the various Gerry Anderson series. If you don't know them previously, you just pop along to YouTube and you can watch them and gen up on whichever series you like. Anyway, would the intergalactic rescue from the pudding toppings advert shown there in the Investigator's Primer have been salvaged from the scrapped 70s series, says James.
I believe that may well be the case.
Yeah.
I think that vehicle was designed and built by Martin Bauer. It was definitely built for pitching.
Yeah.
So it makes sense they reuse it, absolutely.
Now, which leads me on to a question, Jamie. Where was all this stuff kept then? Because your dad didn't literally take the stuff home and put it in the garage. No. So where was it? Just other people happened to hang on to it?
Yeah, I think if stuff survived and was reused, it was often because the model makers themselves would take it home and keep it, or keep it in their workshop. Yeah. And occasionally, if they were renting a space like Bray or whatever, stuff would just build up in the stores.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it would just be there.
Yeah, but then they'd junk it all. So.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
right.
And we've got a slightly related bit coming up in the news about that as well. So if this is an episode of linking themes, then I've got the next one ready and waiting.
Oh, I like it. James continues, he says, still enjoying the podcast every Monday.
Oh, only just though.
Yeah. He said it's a great thing to clean my flat to, / a way to procrastinate from my university work. Yes, nice. We have our uses, James. By the way, did you know, he says, that if you combine the call signs of Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, you get FIG, Fig. James, thanks.
Well, there you go. That's the nugget of the episode there. the pod nugget, as we say.
Exactly.
As we said before.
A fab fact leading into a thought from one of our listeners. Via an email.
Thank you, Podsterons.
Yes, lovely.
If you have anything similar to share or anything inspired by this week's fab fact, email us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes.
Okay, Richard, do you want some news?
Well, yes, please. Is there some?
There is definitely some. So let's go to that bit of news in the Gerry Anderson news.
So if we were in any doubt at all, this is the Gerry Anderson news.
Yeah.
The hashtag newsy news.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mentioned there's a linking theme between the leftover models and things that have been left behind and reused and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to start with some news from the Birmingham Mail.
Right. And who's he? And there's quite a few. Which one are you?
James Roger is his name, in fact.
Right.
He's head of trends at the Birmingham Mail. Anyway, I was sent this link by AC.
Yeah.
And the headline is, Original Thunderbird sketches up for auction after being found hidden in loft.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So many of the iconic models of the Stingray Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet and Joe 90 era and beyond were made by Space Models.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the stuff they did originally was in-house, particularly for Torchy and Supercar and stuff. But I think even at Supercar time, they were starting to farm things out, I believe. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Space Models did all the stuff, like, Fab 1 and the Thunderbirds vehicles and even some stuff from Blake 7, would you believe, connecting us back to our Fab Fact.
Aren't we doing well?
But the founder of Space Models sadly passed away last year. Mm-hmm. And while cleaning out his home in West London, the family found a whole collection of original artwork and photos.
Gosh. And
particularly plans for a bunch of Thunderbirds vehicles and beyond.
Right.
So there's a great picture of... So the founder of Space Models is called Brian Pugsley. And this collection of stuff, including... There's a nice photo here of a schematic of Thunderbird 4.
Lovely.
Original sketches and schematics of Stingray and Thunderbird 1 and 2. I mean, there's loads and loads of stuff in there.
Great.
It's a really beautiful collection. Now, if you're listening on the day of release, which I believe is the 20th of January?
Something like that.
Then this auction is taking place where you can buy this entire collection with an estimated valuation of between £400 and £600.
Yeah.
It's happening at Hanson's Auctioneers in Derbyshire. And there will be some details on the website, on gerryanderson.co.uk, so you can have a look at some of the stuff in the collection.
Cool.
Looks rather nice. If you do end up with this stuff, one of you lovely Podsterons, let us know, because we'd love to have a chat with you and maybe do a video about what's there. But
yes, that would be lovely.
Amazing that even now, these wonderful things just keep turning up. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I mean, when will we end up with a shortage of finds? Or will this stuff keep coming up all the time?
Yeah.
I just don't know.
There's hope yet that people might still find the tuna sandwich that I had at Pinewood Studios on the 23rd of April 1994. The crust of which I left tucked in between the cushions of the leather sofa in the foyer to block L&M.
Yes, I can
Could
picture
still happen.
it
If you find
perfectly.
it, I'll sign it. It'll be worth a fortune.
If it survived to this point, I don't think it'll be in a signable state. Anyway, what a lovely image. So that's pretty cool, isn't it? So pop
really
along to the website, and I hope a fan gets them who is willing to share them with the world, because they're they're lovely bits and pieces and bits of history.
That's
so,
right.
There we go.
Exactly right.
Everyone's a fan of Gerry Anderson vehicles, so this ties in rather neatly. Chris Thompson, our lovely resident designer, did a fantastic vehicle size chart poster. Well, he's now transferred that to a mug, which is now available from the Gerry Anderson store, shop.gerryanderson.co.uk. Great talking point.
Yes.
A really, really good one for the office. You know, if you bring in your mug of tea in that,
yes.
people are going to spend ages
Hang on a minute.
naming all the craft and all that sort of stuff, and having discussions about whether or not the size is accurate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It is accurate. Chris has done a lot of research there. So there
Is
you
he
go.
then going to produce a poster with different size mugs on?
comparing what mugs that have appeared in different Gerry Anderson series?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So puppet scale mugs.
It'd be very niche, wouldn't it? That, but you know, I'm sure someone would be interested.
Niche. Let's
Exactly.
wait and see how we do. There's also a great article following on from the interview the week before last. Arthur Provis, Dad's initial business partner, the P of AP Films.
Oh, yes.
Chris has done a lovely article about him. And since we're on the thing about Chris Dale,
oh, yeah,
his latest primer is all out. But I'm not even going to tell you what it's about.
Aren't you? Why not?
Discover that. Well, try and get people to go and look at it. So if you want to know what Chris's latest primer is, go to youtube.com/Gerry Anderson TV and watch it.
I mean, we could probably work it out, couldn't we, if we knew what had come before? Oh.
You can't.
Right.
Well, because there are a few things it could be. So, yes, you might guess, but you won't know for sure.
Great.
Anyway, there you go. So that's the primer news. Now, Richard, I unfortunately remember that you said you had some Joe 90 news.
Yes. Well, this is actually from Gary Davis, who posted a link on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons.
Yeah.
And I thought this might be of interest for you, Jamie. He posted a link to the Telegraph, the headline of which was "Scientists discover how to upload knowledge to your brain." And of course, I immediately thought of you. Now, so the article
because I'm in need of that.
Yeah, as follows. Feeding knowledge directly into your brain, just like in sci-fi classic The Matrix, could soon take as much effort as falling asleep, scientists believe. Researchers claim to have developed a simulator which can feed information directly into a person's brain and teach them new skills in a shorter amount of time, comparing it to life imitating art. They believe it could be the first steps in developing advanced software that will make Matrix-style instant learning a reality. Researchers from HRL laboratories based in California say they found a way to amplify learning. They studied the electric signals in the brain of a trained pilot and then fed the data into novice subjects as they learned to pilot an aeroplane in a realistic flight simulator. The study, published in the journal Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, found that subjects who received brain stimulation via electrode-embedded head caps improved their piloting abilities and learnt the task 33% better than the placebo group. There.
Amazing.
But, I mean, nowhere in that article do they mention Joe 90.
Unbelievable.
I know.
How dare they?
Exactly. How could they not?
That's ridiculous. Well, we did a little extra feature for the Joe 90 Blu-ray set, just exactly about that and how, how realistic was that as a possibility.
Yeah.
To which I think one reviewer said, "Why would I care about this?"
Oh,
so that went down extremely well. But if you've got the Joe 90 Blu-ray box set, then do check that out.
Yeah. And don't be rude.
And don't be rude. No. Yeah. So, and on that Joe 90 note, that's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. That was the news.
You finally went for the Sprechgesang, eh?
Yes, did a bit of Rex Harrison there. Why not?
Excellent. Beautifully done. Thank you, Richard.
You're very welcome. Now, you're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Don't forget, you can subscribe to us on whichever platform you're listening to us on. You can rate us, you can leave us a lovely review, and even share us with your friends so they can get to hear us too. And we do love to read your reviews, and it all helps in our various ratings and rankings, and it all helps to attract new listeners. I mean, they're still coming to us, aren't they, Jamie?
I know, it's amazing.
I know. Yeah.
Thank you for coming along, and also thank you for sticking with us if you have been doing that for any length of time.
Exactly. Now, we had a bit of fun this week. I don't know if you noticed, Jane, but I know you did, but Amazon Prime are launching the new Picard series, the Star Trek series this week.
I hadn't noticed now.
No, not even heard of it. Anyway, they took over Piccadilly Circus in London this week, the tube station, which became Piccadilly Circus.
Way.
And of course, over on the Podsteron Facebook group, they've been having lots of fun giving London tube station names a bit of an Anderson makeover. So, here are some of the best. We've got Anthony Blunt, who he submitted Edgeware of Impact.
Ooh,
Billy Brooks submitted Helena Russell Square.
nice.
Simon Allen, of course, came up with Koenig's Cross.
Nice.
Phil Steer, whatever happened to Phil Steer?
I don't know. I kind of miss the Phil Steer podcast with Phil Steer, but maybe one day we'll get another chance to hear Phil Steer.
Well, Phil Steer came up with Stand By for Acton Town.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
You see, he's been busy doing that, to be fair, so no wonder we haven't heard of
exactly,
Phil Steer.
that's where he's been. But finally, my favourite, Jamie, has to be Earl Black, who came up with Richard St James Park.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like
there
it.
you
You got
go.
your own one. Where's mine?
Well, don't know. No one
Ouch.
put one up for you, so there we are.
I went for Colonel White City.
Oh, Colonel White City, of course. Very good. Yeah. Excellent. So if you have any ideas at home how we could change, maybe not even just tube stations, but let's say mainline stations around the country to give everyone a chance, into an Anderson name, send it into podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. We'll read them out next time. We'll have nothing else to do, so we might as well.
We need to fill the dead air
Yeah.
somehow, don't we, Richard? So there we
Exactly.
go. Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
that's right.
Very nice. Now, I mean, we could do some other things, but I think what people really want to hear is part 2 of Rob Sawyer's interview, don't they?
Oh, yes, I should think so. Can't say I blame them, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I had a really enjoyable chat, the first part of which you may have heard in Pod 83 with Robert J Sawyer,
Yep.
well-known, award-winning science fiction author who's been doing it for 30 years,
Yes.
officially celebrated the week just gone, I believe. And he just loves everything Anderson. I mean, to be fair, his love of everything Anderson may possibly dwindle a little towards the end of the 1970s.
Yeah, fair enough.
But, you know, he was of that age, I guess, where
Yeah.
Supermarionation and the early live action of the 70s were his main thing. So he carries on talking now about Fire Black Steel 5 and Stingray and Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet, the beauty of the Supermarionation era, and gives us some fascinating thoughts and wisdom as to why he thinks certain elements of the Gerry Anderson universe have stuck, and also some threads and themes that he can see between shows that you may not have thought of before. So,
Oh, interesting.
quite interesting stuff.
Yes.
So here he is, Rob Sawyer, part 2.
And, you know, when Fireball reaches the end of the rail and then the sled that's been propelling it off the rail drops off and it separates and goes up, that's an incredibly dynamic shot. And again, those people who are playing around with motion control or playing around with blue screen, there's not a shot in all of Star Trek or all of 2001 that's as dynamic as that separation and Fireball just zooming up into the stratosphere. Incredible work and all practical effects. We forgive the fact that as Fireball goes along that railing, you see the shadow of the smoke clouds on the cyclorama behind it, but it's still very, very cool. It's an amazing piece of work. And the attention to detail, they did not have to be that careful for 3-year-olds, right? They didn't. But there was clearly a work ethic, a pride in the work. I know your dad was trying to show Lou Grade and others that he could do live action. He did Protectors, he did other things, but he was trying to show that he could work in that space. But it's also one of the reasons why middle-aged men and women can go back and watch those shows. So there's just so much careful work in the model work, in the design of the characters, and in the voice work. I mean, what a great collection of voice actors that your father employed.
Oh yeah, they don't really make voice actors like that anymore, weirdly. They're kind of the BBC rep crowd and the Canadians in particular who came over to the UK to find work doing their best generic American voices.
That's right, like Shane Rimmer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm friends with the daughter of Gary Files, who was one of your dad's regular players. I think he was Captain Ochre on Captain Scarlet and did a lot of voices through the series. So at a party, at one of Gemma's, she's an author, one of her book launches, her dad came out. She said, "Oh, that's my dad," because she knew I was a big Gerry Anderson fan. I went and had a wonderful chat with him, and he had nothing but praise for your dad. But he also said, he still gets the British Actors Equity did a way better job of negotiating a contract than Screen Actors Guild in the States ever did. He still gets royalties for work that he did on Anderson shows in the 60s, whereas none of the Star Trek or Lost in Space actors get a penny of compensation for the stuff they did in the United States. So he said he had nothing but fond memories of working for your dad, appreciated very much your dad's loyalty to keep going back and hiring, whether it was for a big part or a little part, but always making sure to give a bit of work to his pals. And that was really appreciated by the actors.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. And that kind of family theme went on for all the decades, really, on all the crews. People like Christine Glanville, who were there from Twizzle in, even pre-Torchy. She was still there on Space Precinct in the 1990s. So it was an amazing two-way loyalty.
Absolutely.
Now, the voices were amazing, but I really want to know your perspective, both now and then as a kid. The puppets. There's a perception now that puppets are old-fashioned and, they don't entertain anyone, be they, kids or adults. Maybe a few people who've got a sense of nostalgia enjoy them. I disagree that is the case, but I'm interested to know, as a kid, I don't think there can't have been much kind of marionette stuff going on TV in Canada when you were 3-4 years old.
There was Howdy Doody and things like that, which were obviously, you knew the performer was standing there doing it, and even sometimes the camera would catch the performer. So I started watching Anderson stuff with Supercar, which were caricature faces, right? It wasn't until Fireball where the faces began a little bit of a morphing to more human faces. By the time we get to Stingray, they're even using human models. I've always wondered, now James Garner is dead now, but whether he was going to pursue your dad for using his likeness, right? Because, it's well documented that Troy Tempest was modeled on James Garner, who was a big TV star even in the 60s with Maverick. Before he, everybody now thinks of him maybe from the Rockford Files, a much later show. But he was a big TV star in the day, and his face was used. And then they morphed even more by the time you got to Captain Scarlet. By that point, I'm 10 or 11 and thinking, well, I'm too old for Fireball. I'm too old. And the puppets, in a way, grew in sophistication. I was exactly the right decade, born in 1960, to grow up with the Anderson shows as they went from black and white to color, when they went from clearly just pretty straightforward action adventure to very sophisticated by the time you're at Captain Scarlet, for instance. For the first time, I remember being blown away at maybe what would have been 10 when Scarlet was showing, 1970 or so, 69, 70.
Yep. When
the Podsterons won in an episode, and they won in several episodes, but the first time I had ever seen a television drama where the heroes didn't win. That was unbelievably sophisticated. So I grew up with it. The puppets becoming more and more sophisticated. You mentioned Christine Glanville, and I know that a bunch of the puppeteers felt the move towards being human-like, really human-like, to the point where in long shots you couldn't tell the difference, as was done in Secret Service, for instance, with Stanley Unwin, right? Was possibly going too far, right? It took it to a realm that, well, at that point, why aren't you making UFO, right, instead of with puppets? But I still find the puppets, the marionettes, the super marionettes, incredibly engaging. And I have to say, and I'm the wrong era, but for this, I guess, to me, I much prefer watching the Supermarionation version of Captain Scarlet versus the CGI, more recent Captain Scarlet. Partly because CGI is a dime a dozen now. There are endless numbers of products that you can look at. And so there's something very unique. But nothing beats watching one of Derek Meddings' actual models explode in flame. No matter how hard you try, you can't do that in CGI with the beauty of a thing actually blowing up or catching on fire. And, I was savvy enough to realize by the time, before I'd read any behind the scenes stuff, I'm 9, I'm 10, when Captain Scarlet was on, that they must be swapping heads out to get different expressions, because they would cut away and they'd come back with the smiler or the frowner, or with
face,
or with Colonel White with like hardly any change at all. Like guy's paralyzed from the neck up. But I know there were different heads for him, but he was very reserved, that man.
Oh yes.
So there was some, even as a viewer at 10, I think there's an admiration for what you're seeing in how sophisticated this stuff is. Obviously there always talks about reviving this or reviving that Anderson property. And people keep saying, but of course, not with puppets, right? And I think that's a mistake. I think that given particularly now the sophistication we can do with puppets and robotics, so that, the characters actually could walk. The characters don't necessarily have to have, clear room above their heads for wires, right? There are all kinds of innovations, because your father's puppets, they never stopped innovating. I know that the original argument was that the heads had to be huge to fit the mechanical device that moved the lip,
solenoid in there,
the eyes, and all of that got smaller as time went by. I would love to see what could be done. And the classic character designs are fine, but with modern electronics in them to really do even more sophisticated stuff than what was done in the 60s. You just can't beat that real model work. I'm a big fan, I don't know how big it is over in the UK, but the Orville is a current live-action science fiction show, and most of their effects work with spaceships is done with practical models, because you still, no matter how good it is, you still can't get the detail, the depth of field, just the sheer beauty of the kind of practical models. And we all have seen pictures of your dad holding Thunderbird 2, and I know there are a bunch of models. But so Thunderbird 2 is 24 inches long or something in one of the major models. It still looked gigantic on screen. It believably looked like it was almost a flying aircraft carrier, this gigantic thing. And Cloud Base, which was a flying aircraft carrier, looked absolutely believable. Then you see this picture in all the books of, I don't know if it's Meddings or somebody else popping his head up behind Cloud Base and adjusting things, right? Yeah, and it's okay, Cloud Base is only maybe 5 feet long, but it looks realistic in a way that nothing CGI ever really does.
No. And do you think that's just the perfection of imperfection and real-world physics, which you can't replicate because of there's certain little bits of randomness?
Yes.
If you try and make those in CG, it's manufactured, even if you try to make it have that random quality, especially an explosion with pieces flying out, wheeling out towards the camera. It's like a beautiful dance of debris.
Yes. And you got to get it right the first time as you pull up your model. But yeah, it was the whole sequence of growing up with Anderson. It was a really wonderful age to be at. I know I'm older than you, Jamie, that you didn't discover these things until after they were in reruns, right? And so forth. But to grow up with them, and we became savvy to the fact that there would be something new, right? It became apparent after Supercar and then Fireball and then Stingray. Okay, what's next? Oh my God, it's Thunderbirds, which is, most people would say, the pinnacle of the Supermarionation shows. Just the cleverness of it. Nobody had ever done before or really since that idea of a billionaire altruist using his resources to rescue people from, you name it, any number of precarious situations with fantastic vehicles. It's still a great elevator pitch. I saw and I'm in the camp that actually enjoyed the Jonathan Frakes directed movie, but nothing beats the original. And I know there was, I guess it was the Japanese animated version from 30 years ago, Thunderbirds
2086,
whatever it was. And, there have been CGI things and so forth, but the basic idea is just so solid. I would love to see somebody come back and revisit it with a proper budget and, do it upright.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of untapped potential there, but there's a reluctance to go down a path which is rooted in the physical and the Supermarionation of the 60s, but brought forward and evolved with modern technology. And I think that is the sweet spot.
Yeah, you mentioned I've got a Centauran figure. I've got Lynx the Centauran from the Time Warrior, a Third Doctor serial, which just had its 50th anniversary, actually. I love Doctor Who, and it took, the BBC forever to realize that they had a gold mine in that brand name, a whole generation of people who had now grown up and wanted something that they could share with their kids. And I really think Anderson is as big a brand as Doctor Who. And I know it wasn't BBC, it was ITV, but that somebody somewhere should be saying, why aren't we tapping into this? And, there was this vague perception that Doctor Who was really only popular in Great Britain. Well, that's been proven wrong. It's gigantic export for BBC worldwide. And the Anderson shows were seen all over the world, including obviously where I lived in Canada, the United States, and so forth. It's just incredible to me that somebody hasn't come along and said, here is something that can be as big a reboot as Doctor Who was.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, we possibly would handle things differently if it was up to us. But it's the difficulty there, I guess, is that the Anderverse is spread amongst different IP owners and the people there change and stuff. And there's just been no consistency. But maybe one day, because it really deserves it. I'm amazed that we've got nearly 40 minutes in and barely mentioned Thunderbirds other than, it's awesome and a great elevator pitch and stuff. But, like you say, most people do see it as the pinnacle, as the kind of jewel in the crown of the Gerry Anderson universes. So tell me what you like about Thunderbirds. I definitely have to ask you your favourite vehicle. I feel like you're going to say Thunderbird 2 because there's one sat right next to you.
Oh, there are at least 6 Thunderbird 2s in this apartment. I love Thunderbird 2. For sure, Thunderbird 2. I am unlike most science fiction writers these days. Most science fiction writers these days are dystopians. They're writing negative futures. My fellow Canadian, Margaret Atwood, Handmaid's Tale, and the other work that she does. That's so incredibly popular. But I have always been an optimist. And out of your father's oeuvre, there is a lot of pessimism, especially in Space 1999, where the universe is going to slap you down at every opportunity. And for that matter, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons, although we must remember that we were the aggressors in that. We fired first at the Mysterons. But setting aside those paranoid and darker versions, Thunderbirds was altruistic and optimistic. It said, people are going to have accidents all the time, and they did. But we're going to do our best to protect people and rescue people and save lives. And there was just something, and I think Barry Gray caught it in that Thunderbird March. There was something so uplifting about the notion that there were people looking out for you. Thunderbird 5 up with poor John, trapped up there in orbit, listening to the radio, right? At least Sid was an artificial intelligence by the time a UFO. He didn't shove, Alec Freeman up into orbit. He just sit there scanning on his CB radio, right? But with John listening and a cry for help heard anywhere on the planet, and this billionaire altruist saying, don't worry, we've just got to get there in time, and we always would. I loved that optimism, and I think that's why, among all the other reasons, I think it's resonated throughout the world. It was in a period in which, there was the Cold War was ramping up, Vietnam was on the horizon as a terrible conflagration. It was a peaceful science fiction show. It was, okay, these guys, or some engineer, we got a brilliant idea. We're going to move the Empire State Building. Hey, what could possibly go wrong?
Everything, it turns out.
That's right, exactly. And this rescue would swoop in. All the vehicles were fascinating, of course, all of them. The vehicles that were carried in the pods of Thunderbird 2 and the various Thunderbirds themselves. My wife loves Thunderbird 3. It has always been her favorite. So we got a lot of 3s around the house as well. You can't see it from right here, but I've got also Product Enterprises did a big 3 in a hangar and,
it's lovely,
and
that
one in a hangar.
Yeah,
I've got both in the silos. I've got both of those.
Nice,
and I've got their Thunderbird 2 in my bedroom too. Who doesn't have a Thunderbird 2 in their bedroom? Come on,
very few people are listening right now.
Is more romantic. Nothing is more romantic. So I love the positiveness of it. And really, it was very interesting because I understand as an artist, as your father was, once you've done something, you want to take a left turn. You want to show people you can do something else. Because the juxtaposition of Thunderbirds with Captain Scarlet, the brightest and the darkest visions of the Anderson oeuvre, run one right after the other. I think it's absolutely, I've done the same thing myself with, I'll write a book that goes one way and people say, okay, I know what kind of writer Rob Sawyer is. No, Rob Sawyer is somebody else entirely. And I could see why your dad wanted to do that. And you're absolutely right, Jamie, when you say that Thunderbirds is the pinnacle or the crown jewel. But the number 2 has to be Scarlet. I mean, that one is so sophisticated. The interpersonal drama of the characters, suddenly characters have realistic names like Adam Svensson and Paul Metcalf, and not these punny made-up names. And they have love stories, unrequited loves. They have real friendships. They're adults. There's not a Mitch the monkey or Zuni the Lazoon to be seen. The women actually have significant and positive roles.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're seeing our first Supermarionettes of color with Lieutenant Green, and so forth. We're seeing a huge sophistication, and there's no doubt that UFO, Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, UFO, and Space 1999 are the children of Scarlet, not the children of Thunderbirds. That it was Scarlet that I think showed Lou Grade and everybody else that this guy really could do adult stuff. And more power to your dad for proving that.
Yeah. I know it is amazing, like you say, butting up of 2 incredibly different styles. Well, one more part to come.
Good.
And like I said before, we could have gone on for quite a lot longer than we did.
Yes.
But I just love all Rob's theories, and he's got everyone's got their own angle on why they love these shows, right? But Rob's is very kind of considered and different to what we've heard before.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. What I love about these interviews, these podcasts, is that sometimes you get the feeling that people like Robert Sawyer and also Samira Ahmed and Kevin Fong have just been waiting for the opportunity to talk to someone at length about something they really, really love. And it all comes out, doesn't it? It's really nice.
You're turning on a tap and then all the knowledge and enthusiasm pouring out, which is really, really nice. So yes, one more part with Rob Sawyer next week in Pod 85.
Oh, yeah. Gosh, it will be, won't it?
The year I was born.
Really?
Yes.
Right, we won't go into that too far. Anyway, over on Twitter, now Melvin got in touch with us and hashtagged us Gerry Anderson Podcast to say, thanks to 80 plus weeks of the podcast, I know more about British puppet shows of the 1960s than I ever thought possible or probable. And he also suggests Francesco Francavilla. Is that right? Francesco Francavilla as a podcast interviewee. New York Times bestselling author, Eisner award-winning storyteller, creator, comic book writer and artist and illustrator, who this week tweeted about their love of Space 1999. So that might be worth pursuing a little bit.
Great, yes.
Also, when you, Jamie, last week tweeted about the first part of your interview with Rob that we heard last time, it was accompanied with a snippet of the Fireball XL5 titles. To which Stu Reese replied, the theme tune is my go-to karaoke song. So I want to know, listeners, which Anderson theme do you find yourself humming to in the shower or in the car on the way to work or as you're walking about town doing your shopping? And on a related subject, remember last time I asked, were you still watching the Firestorm minisode? Just for a treat every now and then. Well, Mark Owen Hurst said, my answer is yes, whenever I need cheering up, especially if real-world news gets too depressing. It's optimism and heroics always cheer me up. So there you go. That's nice.
Lovely. That's nice to hear. Thank you very much.
That's Gerry Anderson in a nutshell, really, isn't it?
It is.
Getting away from the real world when it gets too depressing.
Well, a brighter utopian vision, which I think that Rob mentions in his interview, doesn't he?
Yes, indeed.
And everything else is set against a kind of dystopian backdrop that's very much in favour and has been for a long time, whereas most Anderson shows, there's a utopian element to them, or at least a brighter nature. So it's quite nice.
It's just nice, yeah. Anyway, so talking of dystopian backdrops...
Are you telling me to tidy my office again?
No, I'm being cruel. It's time to hear from Chris Dale.
Oh, yes, with his lovely randomiser.
Shall we let him in?
Yes. I'll just unbolt the door and in you come, Chris.
In a busy street in a busy town stood a toy shop. In its window were toys and dolls of every kind.
I say, what a funny-looking toy you are. I've never seen anything like you before. What are you?
I'm Chris, and I probably shouldn't be here.
Oh. You can tell he hasn't been here long.
Well, no, I only popped in this afternoon to see what vintage Anderson merch this toy shop might have, and before I knew it, the owner had slapped a price sticker on me and put me on a shelf.
Never mind. We love having you here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Teddy Bear, although I'm not too sure about this price sticker. I'm sure I'd get more than 99p.
No, you won't.
Oh.
You listen to me, and I'll tell you what to do. Jump down and show him your trick.
Oh, steady on, there might be kids listening. Oh, you mean the randomizer? Yes, of course. There we go.
My goodness, you are clever. How do you do it?
Well, of course, it's not me that makes the selection, it's the machine. All I can really do is hope people like it, because if not...
They'll pull off your arms and legs in no time at all.
Yes, that's always a bother. Right, let's see what we have today. Oh, well, it's the very first episode of... I'm not sure how many first episodes we've done on the randomizer so far, actually.
Well, that's because there's only one of them.
Oh, you're back, are you? Ah, yes, of course, we did the first episode of Dick Spanner a year or so ago, didn't we? December 18, I think, that's right. Well then, Miss Narrator Lady, perhaps you'd like to read out the title of today's episode.
In the beginning.
Here's Lavender Castle.
Lavender Castle, a place of legend at the center of the universe. An elusive city floating in the sky, where peace exists, hopes are met, and dreams come true.
And we've got to get to it, Captain, before Dr. Aegon does.
So welcome back to the Randomizer and Lavender Castle. We are in the beginning with the...
Destroys everything else.
Yes, this slightly, I wouldn't say clunky introduction. This opening to this episode, it's just trying to squeeze in too much info very quickly. We have this sequence of Dr. Aegon blowing up a sun, which... Is that reused from Supernova? I know that's a much later episode, but it doesn't seem to fit this.
Is a great source of power in the universe.
Thrice and Isambard
and the universe will be
explaining to each other what they already know about Lavender Castle.
All this, Captain.
We've been to Lavender Castle, haven't we, Captain?
A long time ago. Now Dr. Aegon wants to destroy it.
But we're no match for him. His firepower's much greater than ours.
We will derive strength from Lavender Castle.
Aye, and we'll be more canny. But, Captain, we'll be needing a full crew.
And I think I know where to find one.
Oh, I love this shot of the CGI, the cutting snark on the is it the Galaxy, this great river, or is that the Galaxy is the Lavender Castle universe in general? I'm still learning about this, but some of you may have seen the primer I did recently on Lavender Castle, and in putting that together, I had to look more closely at the series than I ever have before, and it's one of those shows where it's just every single shot is so beautifully designed and animated, and I still don't think that I'm ever going to sort of sit down and watch the whole show like a marathon. I would much rather watch it in fits and starts on the randomizer like this, and it gives me time to really appreciate each one.
That's better. You'll be glad of some company when you find out who's coming for you.
Oh, so Dr. Aegon is coming to rendezvous with the Cutting Snark to get some of Shortfred-led's prisoners, which include... what are their names? I've forgotten their names. Leica, and Roger, and Sir Squeak-a-Lot.
Treasure now.
We've got to get out of here.
They're being held on the...
It's from anywhere, Smart.
The Cutting Snark.
Who could possibly save
And going back to what I said at the start of the episode, the way in which Thrice and
Dr. Aegon
Isambard are talking about Lavender Castle, because we don't have much time to establish anything, a lot of what they're saying kind of has to be taken on trust, which has a slightly odd effect when Captain Thrice says, "We will derive strength from Lavender Castle," and Isambard is instantly, "Yes, I know what you mean."
Captain.
The way they're talking about it, and this was not intentional, I'm sure, but the way they're talking about Lavender Castle, it almost sounds rather like a cult.
No time.
Rather like the way I would imagine cult members would talk about some great mythical space bunny or something.
I'll make you squeak a lot. Aegon.
So Aegon is now landing on the Cutting Snark in his, is it the Mammoth Machine? And the CGI on this show is...
Here you are, Dr. Aegon, sir.
Well, not only the CGI, the animation is just gorgeous, but CGI really holds up as well.
Slave trade, a bit slow.
The lighting on Aegon here is fabulous too.
Oh, what too? An RM96, and it's brand new.
Oh, well, that's my arm.
Nearly new.
Oh,
useless.
Yeah.
Short Fred Lead's pulled Sir Squeakalot's arm off.
Oh, ship ahoy!
So yes, we're getting to see how all the members of the Paradox crew were rescued by Captain Thrice, all previously being held as prisoners of Short Fred Lead, who...
I told you there was always hope.
I hadn't realised until doing the primer was a recurring character, and he's a lovely, very dim-witted space pirate. Oh, close up on the exterior of the Paradox, all these gorgeous...
What was that you said about...
wooden beams and frames and such.
Can't just land on my deck like that! Who are you, anyway?
My name is Captain Thrice. This is my engineer, Isambard. And this is my walking stick.
Aha! Oh, she just smiles and...
You come near my and I'll...
Because, of course, Walking Stick was brought to life by Lavender Castle, so she still has the ability to...
Mr. Machine.
Well, she's squirted some purple magic out of her base and immobilised Short Fred Lead.
You're not going to let him get away with this, are you?
Get away with what? Greetings, old friend.
Old friend?
Oh,
You don't know me. You've got it wrong.
I'm off.
Oh, what's this?
I'm sure we've never met before.
So Dr. Aegon has pressed a few buttons on the thingy on his chest, turned himself into an old lady, and Thrice isn't falling for somebody turning into someone else right in front of him.
And the captain will be right behind you, seeing through your pathetic disguises.
Thank you, Isambard.
Well, Thrice can't get a word in edgeways there.
For myself.
Oh, aye, Captain, of course you could.
Now's your chance! Quickly!
So this is so unlike anything that we were really used to seeing from Anderson up to this point. So I'm wondering...
Oh, no!
Because I never had the chance to watch this go out on first broadcast.
I think I'll come back later.
I'm wondering what the response was from the sort of long-time Anderson faithful about this show, because to be honest, I'm not aware of what the sort of general reception among the fandom was. In the way that I'm aware of how fans reacted to Space Precinct and New Captain Scarlet. This just seemed to come and go without too much impact, and it's a real shame. Oh no.
My trumpet!
Oh. Aegon sat on his trumpet by accident and now he's crying.
Paradox?
The spaceship!
That's a spaceship?
Right. That was a really good little fight scene I just waffled all over there when Aegon's firing lasers out of his trumpet and Isambard is deflecting them. And there was this...
Don't be leaving Sproggle behind!
Oh, don't leave Sproggle behind.
Boss, let him in.
Yeah, this gorgeous shot where Isambard deflected one of Aegon's shots and it went straight up and hit the Dark Station, and it's all CGI. It's gorgeous stuff.
I'm Thrice!
And even the stop motion being integrated with the CGI is very well done as well.
Universe will be mine. Mine!
Oh, that's it. They've got away.
So, friends, welcome to the Paradox and our quest to find Lavender Castle and protect it from Dr. Aegon.
And again, it's like slightly sort of... Again, slightly cultish, the way it's like, right, we've rescued you and now you are signing up to our mission to find the big pink thing.
Your medical research has been interrupted, so...
I'll continue my research, Captain, but I'll also be your doctor.
Good.
And I do think that 10 minutes is just about the right length for these episodes of Lavender Castle. I think even 15 minutes might be pushing it. But...
It already is.
Oh, I love that. I love the little back and forth between Walking Stick and Thrice. Yeah, I do wonder if maybe this could have been a two-parter, just to more clearly establish what Lavender Castle is and why it's so important, because just saying it's the most important thing in the universe and everyone taking it on trust.
Pleasurable feelings.
It's just a...
Oh, wrong way.
Oh, it's just a bit too much to take in one 10-minute instalment.
Of sorts. Full steam ahead, then, for Lavender Castle.
Full power, Captain!
Sol 9, Captain.
To Lavender Castle.
Which way's that, then?
So that's the very quick introduction to Lavender Castle. Everyone is now on board the Paradox, ready to go and seek down the big pink thing in the sky. And yeah, I really like this show I'm coming to find, which is lovely. It's been so nice doing the Randomiser and the Primer to finally get the chance to look at this show properly and to appreciate it in a way that I never have before. I'm never going to appreciate it the same way I do other Anderson shows, because it's not really like other Anderson shows. But for what it is, it's certainly far superior to most other kids' shows that were on in the late 90s, I'm sure.
Lavender Castle.
Lavender Castle. I mean, how many episodes have we seen on the Randomiser of Lavender Castle so far? Not many.
It must be 5 or 6,
Is
I
it really
reckon.
that many?
Well, I might be wrong. I'm sure we've already had one in the recent months,
Right, yeah,
actually.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
a time. Wasn't there a time travel one?
Yes, there was. Yes, that's true. Yes.
Or maybe, it's that problem when there's been time travel and you can't remember because it's reset the timeline. But, I mean, I remember the very early days of production on Lavender Castle when Dad brought this pilot home. He had in his office had a great stack of tape machines for playing, for reviewing material. So like a Betamax and a U-matic and a VHS stack and really old kind of monitor style display.
Yeah.
And I remember quite specifically him bringing that home and putting it onto play and thinking, oh, this is really cute.
Oh,
It's
right.
really, really sweet. Now, I did notice in there, Sir Squeak-a-Lot
Right.
is referred to as an RM96 model.
Yeah, okay.
You think where that might be, Richard?
An RM96. That sounds like a postcode.
Nope.
Oh. What could it be then?
Well, RM, Rodney Matthews, I think. The creator. And 96, I believe that's probably actually the year that they first wrote that script.
Yeah. I like it. Okay.
I love little things like that. I mean, Chris didn't actually mention that, I don't think,
No.
but it just struck me. I was like, it must be.
I was thinking,
Rodney
is that Romford or something? Or what is
Rotherham?
that? Yeah, Rotherham. Yeah, who knows? Don't know.
No, Rodney Matthews 96. But bit of an info dump.
Yeah, it was a
But
bit.
some quite sweet stuff in there. And what I really like is at the very end, when they've brought the band together, they're all in the Paradox in the spaceship, and they zoom off to Lavender Castle. And
Yes.
Sproggle, the navigator, as the credits crash in, says, which way's that then? And I just think that's such a lovely little clever line. I mean, it's a preschool show, but it's like, oh, their navigator, right.
Doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah, but great voices, beautiful show, massively underappreciated, and actually annoyingly difficult to get hold of now. We're trying to get around that. But go and watch Chris's Lavender Castle Primer if you've not seen it before, because it might get you into the show.
Yeah, lovely. Great. Well, thanks, Chris. Let's see what he comes up with next week.
Yeah, well, that was in the beginning, Richard.
Yes.
And of course now, it seems that we might be coming to the end.
I think you might be right, Jamie. But the moment has been prepared for.
Well, has it? So what happens now? What do you say?
Well,
What's going
according
on?
to the script you sent in to me, we just say goodbye.
No, there's a bit before that.
Is there? Please get in touch. Is that the bit?
Yeah. Could you do that
Okay.
bit?
Please do get in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. How's that?
Yeah, that's nicely done. Thank you very much. So please do subscribe if you haven't already. I can see from our stats that an astonishing 22% of our listeners have not subscribed.
What? I mean, how could they risk it?
That means you're coming in and looking for us each week rather than just getting a notification. So hit that subscribe button. And also, please do write us a review. We would love it. And should we do a thing, Richard, where we each week maybe read out a new review, our favourite review of the week or even the month, and we reward that reviewer with a gift of some sort? I think we should do that.
That's a fine idea.
That's not bribery, is it?
No, I mean, it's close, isn't it?
Enticement rather
Fairly
than bribery.
close to the win, but enticement.
Yeah, so there you go. If you haven't yet left a review, then do so, and we'll pick our favourite and read one out next week and send you a thing. I don't know what the thing is yet, but we'll work something out.
Yeah. Well, I'm moving house at the moment. I'm sure I'll find something in the garage I don't need anymore.
There you go. So if you'd like to win some of Richard's tat, then then write a review. And if you've done that review, then just send us an email, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk with review in the subject line, and let us know where it is or what you said. And
or a screenshot or something.
Yeah, something like that. That'll do. God, we're very sort of rough and ready slapdash about this whole thing, aren't we? This podcast.
Sorry about that. Didn't really think it through, did we?
Yeah, I think we should go away and think about what we've done.
I think you might be right.
Okay, let's do that then. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
So do you think we need to work on our preparation?
When have we ever worked on our preparation?
Well, I normally send you a script at least half an hour before. Well, at least half a minute before recording.
And it's normally last week's script, but with just a few things sort of copied and pasted.
Well, of course
Quite
it
carelessly,
is.
I have to say.
Well, I'm just going to scroll through and look at my favourite bits from this week's script that are...
Okay, I'll give you my favourite bits.
Is your favourite bit Dickie's Bits?
That's
Which
exactly
is in there,
right.
So that, listeners, means Richard needs to do his general introduction stuff about what we're doing and who we are.
That's right.
What else do you like?
We're giving away secrets here. If you have a question, drop us a line. We'd love to answer it. Brackets, blah, blah, blah. That's another of my favourites.
Yeah. And then I've also indicated how Richard should react to the end of an interview with the words for, etc.
Yes, that's there every week.
So
I don't think
there you
I've
go.
quite said that yet. Maybe next week.
You haven't yet, but there you go, listeners. You've just been let into the secrets of the script of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Oh, dear. Yeah, maybe we'll print one off, sign it, and put it on eBay.
Yeah. Well, yes, great. Might make a whole 10 pence doing that.
Well, I did tell you about the Space Precinct napkin, didn't I? We had a reunion lunch at Brown's restaurant in London. This is a good few years ago. And Rob Thurtle, who was one of the aliens of the week on Space Precinct, said, here's a good idea. Let's all sign this napkin. There was me, and there was David Quilter and Lou Hirsch and Andy Dawson, I think. So let's sign this napkin, put it up on eBay and see what we can get. 9p. 9 pence.
It doesn't even
Cost him
split.
more to post it.
Oh, amazing.
But someone somewhere has that.
Yeah. Is that you? Let us know. Can't be.
No.
I know who it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Christian Tarpey.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course it is.
He'll have it. Yeah. Right, you better go and get on with your moving house stuff.
Yeah, stuff to put in boxes, all that kind of thing.
Good luck.
Thanks.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?